So remember the hero's journey, when you want to back off and you don't want to go ahead, the mentor comes in and say, you've got a phone now. And so that's just a lovely illustration of the mentor role in one's life to encourage us to go ahead, to do that thing that we sometimes want to shy away, because it's too overwhelming. Can I ask one or two more questions about that period, that first period? I would imagine that The Secret also had an impact on your biological mother and your stepfather's relationship.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. So they did have quite a bit of a tumultuous relationship. And for me, it was their stuff. Also, remember that I wasn't home much of the time. I went into boarding school at the age of 6. I only turned 7 at the end of that year. So I was one of the younger children in the class. And I was in boarding school for the first 4 years of my life, full time. I only came home during the winter holidays, which was a month, and the December holidays, which was 6 weeks. My parents had no money in between to get me to travel home. So I had very little experience with them after I went into boarding school. So it was another distancing. It was another, I wasn't part of the family. So going home was often a case of, there's nothing for me at home. And boarding school is painful. So I often didn't know which pain was worse, going home or being at boarding school. And but that was as a result of the distancing that was there. What I know for sure is that my adoptive father loved my mother really beyond capacity. He was not an easy man to live with. And if I want to just sidestep a little bit, as much as he loved my mother and as much as he loved me, he was brought up in a very brutal home. And he had a story where his mother died when he was 5 years old. And he was the youngest of 3 children. And the loss of his mother was very, very difficult for him. And the father, coming from German soldier background, was very harsh and very hard. So he also did not have parental love. And so his love language was, I'll give you a hiding because I love you. And a lot of Christians will actually identify with this because it's part of the scriptures is, don't spare the rod to spoil the child. And so it was very much a belief system. So for me, it was very difficult to always be good, to always be under the radar, to never ever do something that would upset or flare up his temper. And or my mother's for that matter. So being on the farm and being away from home was my safe place. Going home was not so safe because I had to read the moods of the adults and stay under the radar where I was not noticed, where I was not seen, not heard, well cared for and loved.
So when he was dejected from the farm, he could not stay any longer. How old were you then?
That happened soon after the wedding. It was within a month of the wedding. So I was 18.
Oh, okay. So your connection with the farm was short-lived.
With his parental farm.
The parental farm. And then he had his other farm where he was hired.
Then he was a farm manager at one farm, and then he moved to another farm. And and then just shortly before I went to school, he actually took a job in a tiny village, in a very dusty village. but he took a job that paid well. My mother could go and work at a general dealer, and so they both had employment. So financially, it was a better option for them, and I was not at home anyway. So
right, right, okay, yeah. But that disconnect from his father also has an impact on him. Disconnect from his mother at a very young age, all traumatized the young inner child of the stepfather to a large extent, and then it impacts on you in living in those circumstances. Yeah.
Yes.